Here we go. I believe we're going, hopefully. All right, going to try to get the thing done in something like 30 minutes. Let's pull it up and let's make it bigger. And so there it is. Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so looks like the first little section right here is about congressional leadership. All right, so let's go over here to it. All right, so there's the Speaker of the House, and let's see, I need to flip that. The Democrats have a caucus, and the Republicans have a conference. So I'll go conference for, I don't know, I'll just put GOP. OP. All right, and so prior to Congress meeting in January, the Democratic caucus chooses their leaders, and the Republican conference chooses their leaders. All right, there's Speaker Powers. Hey, next one up says succession, so she's second behind the vice president. Okay, so there's Speaker Powers. So she sets the agenda. Can influence committee assignments, time limits, schedules a floor debate, and assigns chairmanships of the committee. So you want to stay on the good side of especially your House leadership because you got more rules over there. I don't have an acronym. I may try to think about an acronym between now and then, but I don't have one on that. But those are the different powers that the Speaker has. Okay, so then you got the famous speakers. During the Gilded Age, you had this very pro-business speaker named Joe Cannon right there, and he's like the strongest speaker in history. Tip O'Neill was during the Reagan years. There he is hanging out with Republicans, even though he was a Boston Democrat. Gingrich is kind of the beginning in certain ways of our personal combative politics, and Pelosi is historically significant as the first female speaker. All right, let's see, what else do we have? If we come over to the review sheet, all right, so we now go to the majority leader and the whips. All right, the majority leader is, helping the speaker, trying to win support. So in certain ways, the majority leader is almost the whip. All right. We got it switched. We got it switched last time. I pulled this sucker up, and now it's still back with the Republicans in charge of the House of Representatives. So we're not worried about the identity of these folks since the Democrats are in charge. But they're setting the strategy. They're winning support. The whip counts votes. He's the vote counter, and that's the most important thing that the whips do. Okay. Now, to become a committee chair, right here, you got to have seniority. So you're a member of the majority party, and you've got the most seniority on the committee, meaning you've been there the longest. Not that you're the oldest, but that you've been there the longest. All right, so there it is. And they schedule hearings, and then they preside over the discussions. Okay, subcommittee, the same thing. All right, they're generally speaking the most senior member of that subcommittee from the majority party, and they schedule the hearings. And then they preside over them. All right. And so then you've got the floor leader and the whip. So the floor leader, there we go. There we're getting updated stuff right there. Remember, Pratham put some of that stuff on there for us. All right, so the floor leader, but dang it, look at that. Floor leader, Kevin McCarthy. So let's switch that one. All right, Kevin McCarthy organizes the opposition to Pelosi's agenda, and then the minority whip is in charge of counting the votes. All right. Gosh, if I could only type. Oh, that's pitiful. Pelosi's agenda. All right. What if I did this right here? Will that help any? Pelosi's, look at that. Is that not Pelosi's agenda? There we go. All right, so there's the people today. And look at that. So there's review questions. Looks like now we're going to the Senate. All right. So there's the Senate leadership. So we remember that the vice president has two formal duties: break a tie, replace the president. We know that. All right. The president pro tempore is number 2 man. He's got the most seniority of the majority party in the Senate. He's got former power, but he never does it. Remember Orrin Hatch, when he got elected, Earl Campbell was winning the Heisman Trophy at the University of Texas, and we have that lovely and inspirational, all right, those poor SMU Mustangs there. Okay, so then we got the majority floor leader. So that, and remember we said he's got, looks like a turtle, that's his nickname. But, you know, a lot tougher than the picture looks like behind the scenes. And that's kind of the way Lyndon Johnson was. So he guides bills through the Senate. He's the most powerful. But, you know, you assign some junior member to preside over the debate. The debate's unlimited. You got the filibuster. And so he's just got to be persuasive. He doesn't have as much formal power over members of the, over senators as the Speaker has over representatives. Most powerful majority floor leader ever was Lyndon Johnson, and most of the pictures we have from him from the Johnson treatment are his days as floor leader, not as president. All right, the Speaker, you got 435 people to deal with, so she's got more formal power. She can do more to people if they make her mad than Mitch McConnell has. All right, so then the whip is the vote counter. The minority leader is Schumer. We saw him quite a bit during the shutdown. And the minority whip counts votes for the minority. Okay, let's go back up here, see what we got. Majority floor leader, so moving along pretty well. So then we're going to committees. All right, so let's find us some committees. Let's go ahead and say, so the caucus and the conference, that's where they're picking their leaders. And there's other caucuses. The House Freedom Caucus, very conservative. The Congressional Black Caucus, very liberal. So they organize around an issue sometimes. All right, committees. There it is. So there's a Wilson quote. The important work gets done in committee. All right, Congress in session is on display. Congress in committee is at work. And the breakdown of the way things work is a majority party, and every committee gets a majority of seats. Enough of a majority to make sure they win all the votes in the committee. Okay, any close vote. All right, committee assignments based on preference. You know, you want to be on a high-profile committee. If you're seen as a talented AOC, you can rise quickly. If you're a good soldier, do what the party tells you to do. After being kind of a maverick, Tom Graves has shown party loyalty and has risen in the party. And then you want a relevant committee assignment to your area. So Graves wants rural stuff, and somebody from big city would want urban stuff. All right, let's see what we have. Let's keep going. Types of committee. So the standing committee is a permanent committee. Permanent committee is called a standing committee. There's 20. There's more of them in the House than there are on the Senate because the House has more people. They work on their expertise and their seniority there. All right. Joint committees made of members of both conferences. A lot of times they're researching. They're doing some research. Conference committees, most well-known type of joint committee. Select committee is for something specific and temporary, like Watergate. All right. The conference committee, we've done quite a bit with conference committees. Our immigration bill didn't quite make it. Came out of the conference committee. We just had a conference committee on education today. And the, look at that. The end product ended up looking much more like the Senate bill than the House bill. So we matched up with the way things kind of worked in our education debate. Okay. If I go back up here, there's committee stuff. All right, so then next we have 3 jobs of Congress. Let's see if that shows up well on the PowerPoint. You got the norms. There we go. Lawmaking, representation, oversight. So lawmaking is the thing that gets the highest profile. More bills passed the House than the Senate due to the filibuster. Bipartisanship has become difficult because of the gerrymandering and the big sort where everybody's in kind of a very liberal or very conservative district. So lawmaking is difficult, and people get frustrated with its inability to Congress's inability to solve problems. On the other hand, representation they're real good at. They do the constituent service, and they'll look at the type of issues. So they're going to vote their conscience when they can. They're going to stay popular when they have to, and Politico does that. So chooses different times when to be a trustee and when to be a delegate. All right, and that is everything on Congress. All right, let's see if we can work our way down to. It's going to be that policy stuff is down somewhere. Maybe even below the court stuff. Let's see what we get here. No, that's the media. Let's keep going. There you go. So let's see. So that's the very much too long version of policy. There we go. Boom. All right. So if you look at the next section right there, it's about policy. All right. And where is it? Ooh. Nope. Hey, I skipped something. So, hey, it's going to take forever. I want to keep this to 30 minutes. So let me just tell you about these things right here. So the majoritarian view, our last test might call it the participatory democracy view. So, hey, the Democrats, according to this view, the Democrats would win the House, so they'd be in charge of things and they'd pass Democratic legislation. All right, when the Republicans win, they pass, they're in charge of the Senate, they pass Republican legislation. All right, we kind of know that the pluralist view says that there's lots of different points of access within the government. So if you can't win with the president, you can win with the House. You can't win with the House, you can win with the Senate. If you can't win with Congress and the president, you can get access to your state government. So there's all kinds of different access points to our government. All right. Then you got these things, iron triangles and issue networks, and they are really important. But I know I can't find them. Here, let's see what we got. So that is, I'm going to write it down. It is slide number 519. So let's work our way back up to Congress, see if we can do something with those iron triangles, because those are very, very important. Historically, AP has just absolutely loved the iron triangles. All right. So you got that, you got that, you got that. Boom, boom, boom. No. There we go. There we go. Boom. There it is. All right. So the elite theory is that only the privileged, so it's Bill Gates doing everything. Donald Trump and Bill Gates are in charge of everything behind the scenes. All right. The iron triangle says in every issue, there's three groups of people that are used to working with each other. The congressional committee, the interest groups that work on the topic that the committee is working on, and the bureaucracy from that topic. And they talk to each other about every single item that comes up, every single bill. And so so it's kind of the elite theory. These few folks are really the ones that are making the policy. Some scholars have critiqued that and said, there's other people that weigh in on this stuff. So you got activists and think tanks and college professors who have written books that people listen to. And so it's a little less the elite theory, it's more pluralistic, is the issue network. All right, so what did we say? We said it was number 520. Let's go back down to 520. And there we go, 519. All right, so the steps of policy. You admit you've got a problem. Something comes up. Healthcare, immigration, whatever it is. All right, so then if somebody comes up with a plan, all right, maybe education. Today, education was our problem. So if somebody comes up with a plan, different people have different ideas, whether you're trying to equalize teacher pay and funding, or whether you're trying to get rid of Common Core and give states more say-so in the way things work. Okay, then Congress passes something, all right, so there's the picture of, Obama's deal and Obamacare and Biden talking to Obama. But then the bureaucracy carries it out. So remember, the verb on bureaucracy is implementation, and they've got discretion, and they can make rules for how this is going to work. I believe this weekend I saw an article about a Trump administration rule saying they weren't giving us much money to Planned Parenthood. All right, so you've got the law, but then you've got rules about how much the government, somehow or another, the administration itself pulled some of the funds from Planned Parenthood as a result of a rule. All right, evaluation. So, hey, the thing starts happening, then people say, hey, it's costing too much. I don't have enough choice. Whatever the concerns are, and the process starts all over again. All right, so that is the policy process. Okay, so then you got budget. So what do we have? We have the budgetary process. Let's just look at that. You had the little quiz. Still got to put all those good grades in. I think I left the answers on the board when we took that quiz. All right, so the OMB is helping out the president. Remember that? Office of Management Budget. O for also optimistic in addition to office. The CBO helps out Congress, and it tends to be more pessimistic. All right. When Congress authorizes programs, they're saying, hey, we're still going to have a military, we're still going to have a Social Security department. Appropriations, they're determining how much money to spend in the budget, how much money is appropriate. Okay, and so that's kind of the very short version of the budgetary process. All right, so then we looked at economic policy, entitlements. In debt, we spend a lot more money than we're taking in. A big part of that is, let's see if we can get a graph on it. You've got all those entitlements, and so the money is automatically spent on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Let's go down here and see if we get anything. Again and again and again. Yeah, you got the business cycle there. We talked about that a little bit. Keynesianism and Republicans. There it is. All right, so deficit and debt is, debt is multiple deficits. All right, and so there's the stuff. And we tried to balance the budget and we couldn't, right? So you got to either raise taxes to balance the budget or cut programs to balance the budget. There's not that much today. Only 30% of the budget is discretionary spending, the military and, hey, the wall, that's discretionary. Immigration is discretionary. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are mandatory. Once you hit the certain age or you have the certain income, you're entitled to the benefits. So it all comes down to the spending comes down to the number of people that are entitled. And so very difficult to balance the budget. If you don't balance the budget, well, you're kicking the can down the road and you've got, the continuing resolution. There it is. If if they can't come up with an agreement about the budget. All right. What's next? Poverty policy. Let's see if we get some poverty stuff there. All right. So next thing I have. So AFDC came out of Social Security during the New Deal, and it was aid to families with dependent children. The benefits primarily going to widows, but that got controversial because in more recent years, the benefits weren't going to widows. So Republicans argued that it was undermining the family and the work ethic. So during the Clinton years, you get TANF, and TANF is temporary aid to needy families, and it set time limits and got rid of the marriage penalties. Number of people on welfare has been cut in half. Didn't really do much about divorce and marriage, but it was somewhat successful in terms of cutting the number of people on welfare. All right. Boom. Look at that. That brings us to the courts. All right, let's work our way up. Up a little farther. Down a little farther. That's getting pretty good. Boom, boom. Is that it? All right, so Federal 78. So we know that we read it, Article 3 short, and we looked at it, and that film was helpful. So what do you say? It's not dangerous because it's weak. It doesn't have the power of the purse, and it doesn't have a sword, doesn't have the power of the sword. So it can only make judgments, can't compel anybody to do anything. Let's add that. Least dangerous because weak. No purse or sword. All right, and then we also said, laws are not foundational. What's the opposite of foundational? I don't know. The Constitution is foundational, so the job of the courts is to make sure the laws that are not foundational match up with the Constitution, which is foundational. Good gracious, if I only had any skills whatsoever. Let's pull it up here. That's not too bad. All right, so there's the view, the Hamilton, the founder's view of the court. All right, so then we start looking at what? Jurisdiction. Yeah, Martin versus Hunter's lessee gave judicial review to states to the Supreme Court. All right, Chief Justice provide impeachment trials. The idea is for them to be impartial if they'd seen how much power they have. Really, we said maybe in thanks in part to the political parties, the importance of political parties in the nomination process. Maybe it wouldn't be life tenure. Maybe there'd be term limits. All right, so there's the original jurisdiction. So things involving a state or an ambassador. All right, is the original jurisdiction. All right, and then you got other stuff where the federal government's policy, got a constitutional question, people from different states. Let's work our way down. Oh my goodness, what the heck is that? Oh, we got to work our way down again. We got to skip lots and lots of stuff. We got crime. Oh, I don't like that. That was something we had to cover once upon a time. Go, 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 go. Come on, baby. More than you got state and local government. What the heck? All right. Let's work our way up. I do not know what happened. All right. Looks like we got the same thing going twice. All right, so then there's other federal cases. All right. Dang it. After the Marbury versus Madison. Come on. So there's other stuff. All right, so if it's at sea, if it's bank robbery, if it involves the mail, if it involves cheating with money in some kind of way. But most laws are state laws. All right, there's the circuit courts. There's the 94 district courts. So we're working our way back up. And there's that route. All right, so 94 district courts. They'll have original jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is power to hear a case. Original jurisdiction, power to hear a case first. Appellate jurisdiction, power to hear a case on appeals. On the state route, if it's a small crime, the lower court, an important crime, the superior court, then there's two courts of appeals. Death penalty cases all automatically go to the state Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court has a little bit of original jurisdiction. The vast majority of cases come to the Supreme Court. Come on, appellate jurisdiction. All right, that was painful finding all that stuff. Let's see what the review sheet looks like. All right, federal jurisdiction, life tenure, impeachment trial. So what? Right here, the founder's mistake was they didn't realize how strong it was going to be, so they might have had term limits. The role of Chief Justice is the judge in impeachment trial. The Senate is the jury. National Judicial Reviews, Marbury versus Madison. States, Martin versus Hunter's lessee. All right, and then you got Marbury versus Madison. So we know we got the guys mad at each other. Marshall is in a tight spot because Marbury wants his job and Madison won't give it to him. And he wants, what does Marbury wants? He wants a court order, a writ of mandamus. And the Judiciary Act, there's a part of the Judiciary Act that said the Supreme Court hears cases involving these court orders, these writs of mandamus. All right, so Marbury weasels his way out and says, I ain't got to decide this thing because this part of this law that is changing the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is unconstitutional. And so in doing that, he gives himself power. He makes The the judicial branch, an equal partner, so it's not so feeble and weak, the way Hamilton says it was. So you got parties, plus you got Marbury versus Madison, and he's creating judicial review. All right, so then we've got really kind of the last day and 10 minutes today. So Congress creates federal courts. The inferior courts, there's one chief, and there's 8 associate justices. Let's work our way down. There's Marbury versus Madison. So there it is. One chief, 8 associates. Term of good behavior. Let's turn that into 10,000. Let's change our numbers. 10,000. I change the numbers every year, and it changes back. I don't understand that. All right, about 80. Okay, and remember, the court speaks for the minority, so you only need 4 of the 9. So you got 2 writs. You got the writ of mandamus, which is what Marbury wanted. The court grants a writ of certiorari, saying they're certifying that's an important case that they need to hear. But not many cases make it to the Supreme Court. All right, it's got to involve a significant constitutional issue or be appealed by the U.S. government. The case has got to be ripe. It's going on right now. Parties have to have standing, meaning that it's got to be, what was it? The gay couple and baking a cake. It can't be one of us who has a strong opinion about it. Somebody who has a strong opinion about it. I don't really have a strong opinion on that one. It's got to be the baker and the couple. All right. So they have something to lose. Either they get the cake from the guy or they don't. All right, so that means it's right. The parties have standing and the case is going on right now. Solicitor General, thanks to Bobby, we now know that the Solicitor General is the number 4 person in the Justice Department, not the number 2, not the number 3. There's like a deputy and then there's an assistant attorney general or something like that. Okay, so then you got the court in session. So they write the briefs. The briefs are not brief, they're long. But they're summaries of the case. The judges want to be experts on the case by the time the lawyers get there. Interest groups weigh in, and so they write amicus curiae briefs. That means friends of the court. All right, criminal case has a defendant and a prosecutor. Civil case has a plaintiff and a prosecutor. All right, the oral arguments get 30 minutes. The judges can interrupt. Then they go to conference where they're just talking to each other and they're voting. The vote is the decision. All right, and the vote is the score, and the decision is the vote and the score. All right, a lot of the decisions are unanimous, and there's more unanimous decisions than there are 5-4 decisions. All right, but if it's when the court's decision applies to all the other courts, so they got to explain it with opinions. All right, a majority opinion explains the decision. The dissenting opinion explains why somebody disagrees. A concurring opinion, they agree for a different reason. Could be that there's a plurality opinion because let's say it's a 5-4 vote, but 3 of the judges vote for one reason and 2 for something else. So the 3 would be the plurality. I never do. I don't have the words to explain that more clearly than that. I'm always frustrated with the way that I explain that. But in other words, people have different reasons for voting the way they do. All right. So the Chief Justice decides who writes it. A lot of times he writes it. If he's not in the majority, the most senior member decides who writes it, and these opinions are going to serve as precedents. Look at that. Precede that have to be followed. All right. Ever since Brown versus Board of Education, no state can segregate their schools. Ever since Roe versus Wade, no state can outlaw abortion. All right. Stare decisis is Latin phrase means the decision stands. The courts have to follow precedent, the example set in these court cases. Today, about half of the cases involve, these fired up kind of issues involving the Bill of Rights. Okay. All right. And so then that's today's stuff. All right. Nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate. There's the examples of the last 2 presidents. Democrats started filibustering Bush, so now you only have to have 51. Judges sometimes end up a little bit left of Republican presidents who nominate them. You don't really have, flip side of this where you've got Democrats nominating judges who move to the right. I don't know. The success rate is 75%. They're going to be on there for life, so not quite as high as with cabinet nominees. All right. Anything else? No. That's as far as we got. All right. Come on. Let's make this work.